like to start off this meeting by thanking the wonderful
We're
staff.
just gonna fly out of her hand.
Okay, wait. Okay. Seeing how it is 5:30, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, November 6, 2025 City of Conway Planning Commission meeting. Do all members have their mics turned on? Mr. Brown, okay, got it. So first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the October 2nd, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
I have a first, do I have a second?
Second.
Ooh, Ms. Watkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to public input. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on any matter, we'll give you 3 minutes. Come up, state your name and address. You good? Okay, all right. I will make a motion to close public input.
I don't want to talk,
Okay.
since no one else is, and there isn't very many people.
Okay, if you'd like to come up and state your name and address.
My name is Amy LaFever. I live at 15 Clemson Road, and I would like to say I'm strongly against the annexing of that little property catty corner to my house. I bought this house because it was a nice house in a nice area with people that own their houses for the most part. There are some renters, we have renters next to us, they're very nice, they've never bothered us once. We do not want to have that little area annexed into the city so that the city can then build something awful.
Okay, and are you speaking to the 0.39 acres or the 0.35 acre, Clemson Road or Cottage Lane?
Clemson Road.
Okay,
But if Cottage Lane is in my area, we
No.
also don't want that.
it's not, okay. Okay, okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, all right, anybody else? Okay, I will make a motion that we close public input.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the 2026 Planning Commission meeting schedule.
Yeah, so there's 3 dates, in 2026 that you guys would actually meet the second Thursday of the month. One, because the first Thursday falls on a holiday or around a holiday, and then it'll be again in the second Thursday in December due to the tree lighting being the first Thursday in December next year.
All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, we have a first,
Second.
we have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty. Moving on to subdivisions, item A is Rivertown Road North Phase 1.
Yes, so, the technical review committee, when a final plat is requested to be approved for a subdivision, which actually creates the lots, if they don't have all the infrastructure in place, they have to supply what's called a financial guarantee in the form of a letter of credit. TRC can approve that, for the first year, and then the first time it needs to be renewed after the initial year, TRC can approve that renewal, but following that, the planning commission is required to review and approve any future renewals beyond the first time, and along with any reductions that would accompany those renewal requests. This is for phase 1 of Rivertown Road North. I counted that they have about 16 vacant lots in phase 1 remaining, and they're proposing to reduce the letter of credit to approximately $163,761. Staff does recommend the extension of the letter of credit and the reduced amount for an additional year. And I do believe there is a representative from Beverly Homes present if you have any questions.
Alrighty, does anybody have any initial questions?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the reduction and renewal of the letter of credit in the amount indicated by staff.
Okay,
Second.
a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to public hearings, rezoning requests number 1.
All right, so this property is within the Coastal Heights subdivision at the corner of Singleton Ridge Road. There are several lots within this subdivision that have been annexed over the years as a result of the existing homes being sold and new accounts having to be set up to receive city utilities. So what's there is there. There's nothing new that would be proposed for the lot. It's just a requirement to receive city utility services in a new account name that they have to request annexation. If the property is currently zoned SF10 in Horry County's jurisdiction, which is a residential district that permits single-family site-built homes on a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, and the proposed zoning upon annexation is low to medium-density residential, or R1, which is consistent with the zoning of other properties that have been annexed in this subdivision over the years. The city's future land use map identifies the property as R1. First reading of the annexation of the property was approved at the October 6th council meeting, and first reading of the proposed zoning upon annexation is scheduled for November 17th. Final reading of the ordinances to annex the property and the proposed zoning could occur as soon as December 1st. This item is a public hearing, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, so, it is within the city service district, which is why this request is coming before us. The adjacent property is already R1, so this is kind of a standard thing that we've been doing in this area. The property behind it that's commercial is already in the city, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
everything on the left, if you look at the current zoning map, everything that has a color is in the city limits. Eventually, all the lots within this development will be in the city limits.
Okay, and it does not affect, for everyone in the audience, it does not affect any other current landowner.
No, the only time it would affect landowners is if they sold the property, and then the new owner, when they requested to get a new city water account, they would have to request annexation and file restrictive covenants unless there's already restrictive covenants on file.
Okay, all right. Does the board have any other questions? Alrighty, it is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the public if anyone has anything they'd like to say on this. Alrighty, I will make a motion that we close public input.
A second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, back to the board.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve rezoning agenda item 6A1, low medium density residential R1.
Okay, we have a first. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty. Moving on to item 2.
This is a request to rezone 2 parcels located at the corner of Church Street and Cottage Lane. Both of these parcels are currently zoned low, medium density residential, or R1. One of the parcels is where a title loan business had been located for several years. The other parcel between the title loan place and Burger King is vacant with the exception of a billboard. The requested zoning is highway commercial, which is also consistent with the city's future land use map. And pending Planning Commission's recommendation, first reading of the rezoning request could be considered for first reading at the November 17th council meeting. And this item has also been advertised as a public hearing.
Alrighty. Any input from the board on this one? So this is a donut hole in the city right now?
Well, it's already in the city.
Oh, yeah,
There are
sorry.
some donut holes directly behind it.
Behind it.
I think most of it's residential, but, or has residential uses, but it's in the county zoned highway commercial.
Gotcha.
Eventually, those will be in the city, but these are, it's awkward that they are zoned R1.
Right.
When everything around it is highway commercial.
Okay. Alright, again, this is a public hearing, so is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this one? Alrighty, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we close public input.
Second.
The second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty. I didn't ask this on the first one, but I guess is the applicant present, if you'd like to say anything? No? Okay, just checking. Anybody have any thoughts, comments?
I think it makes sense. It's too, I drove by it the other day and it's just, you know, empty lot and a house that,
That
I don't-
house has been a business, it's been a business for a very
It's been a business
Long
for, I
time.
know of at least 40 years. I
At
think it was a
least.
house before it at some point, but
But
it's,
I mean, yeah, when you drive by, it looks like a residential home, it'd be something.
But it was a craft store way back
Yes.
when, it was, yeah, it was.
So,
I think it's common
that
sense.
Would you like
makes
to make a
sense.
motion?
Did you open up public input?
I did,
Okay.
I did. All right, well, I'll make a motion that we approve, the rezoning request as presented.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty. Moving on to discussion items.
The first discussion item that staff wanted to discuss with Planning Commission briefly was, it's been deferred a few times due to the comprehensive nature of this amendment and ultimately the result that the amendment could have on existing businesses. And I think I've got, hold on, I'm sorry. I might not have anything up here for the first one. Yeah, I do. Here we go. Some of the uses in highway commercial, we wanted to see if whether or not those uses would be better suited in other zoning districts like light and heavy industrial districts. Other options that staff has looked into was the adoption of a special exception process where certain uses that are permitted in our ordinance would need to be considered by the Board of Zoning approval or the Board of Zoning Appeals for approval to ensure that the proposed use meets specific standards and the general intent of the zoning district in which it's located, but also that it won't be of detriment to surrounding properties. In this instance, the proposed use at a certain location, if the district permits the use, would be advertised for a public hearing that would be held by the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they would have the ability to impose conditions on the use if it's approved to ensure that surrounding properties, specifically residential uses, would not be harmed by the use. For some uses, that would give the public, in particular the property owners immediately adjacent to the proposed use, an opportunity to voice concerns, should they have any. Horry County uses the special exception process for many uses, including bed and breakfast, restaurants and bars that serve alcohol for on-premise consumption, outpatient drug treatment facilities, casino boats, as well as what's called a rural tourism permit. Rural is a very hard word for me to say, but we'll get into that more with the next item. But those are some of examples of what the county requires a special exception for. This proposed amendment will largely affect highway commercial, the most intense commercial district the city has outside of industrial, but serves automobile-oriented uses such as those that you'd find off major highway corridors, restaurants, shopping, retail centers, and uses, and several other uses that would not be permitted in less intense commercial districts like neighborhood commercial and professional. So 2 uses that have been discussed previously are tobacco shops and financial institutions. Not because those two uses themselves are an issue, but similar uses like vape or smoke shops or a payday loan establishment. There have been discussions of limiting vape shops and payday loan providers or cash advance places, which are often considered predatory lenders because of their lending practices that disproportionately target vulnerable populations. And vape shops often over-concentrate in certain corridors or areas such as low-income or minority areas, and clustering of those establishments contribute to blight. They reduce diversity of services, and they give a perceived degradation of the quality of the area. And while these types of businesses cannot be outright banned, where they are permitted to operate can be. They could be defined separately in the Unified Development Ordinance. The districts they operate in can be limited with stricter zoning standards or limiting the number of such establishments within a certain area, increased setbacks or separation requirements, increased buffers, or other standards that could be implemented. The City of Columbia, for example, they drafted an amendment in 2022 to define smoke and vape shops separately, as well as conditions for the use that included a required distance of 1,000 feet from schools, daycares, parks, churches, and other smoke or vape shops. Other cities across the United States have adopted zoning changes and licensing controls with regard to tobacco and vape or smoke shops that prohibits them from locating near certain sensitive areas and established rules for existing non-conforming stores, as well as establishing caps on the amount of stores based on population size or outright limiting the number that could be permitted in the city or town. And the same is true to payday loan or cash advance centers, including spacing requirements or a cap on the total number. One idea that staff had was to remove those two uses from highway commercial as a permitted use and allow them as a conditional use in the light industrial and heavy industrial districts only. Conditions such as distances to residential uses, schools, etc., could be placed on the use even if it is in the industrial districts. This doesn't address the ones that are currently opened in the city. They would become legal nonconforming. And short of amending the ordinance to the contrary, if a vape store ceases to operate today, a different vape store could start operating in the same location tomorrow. And the only time the use would no longer be able to operate at the same location is if there is a lapse in that particular use for 6 months or longer. There is a handout, it's the discussion item 1 that has a table with all of the uses in highway commercial, light industrial, and heavy industrial, identifying them as either permitted, conditional, or accessory, along with the applicable sections of our ordinance that outlines any conditions associated with the use. But this amendment would also give you an opportunity to add uses that we don't currently have, like event venues, whether it's indoor or outdoor. We do have banquet or event halls, but those are defined a little bit differently. This is just a discussion item, but before staff brought you an amendment that is going to be so comprehensive in nature and could include new requirements, we wanted to get your feedback on it as well.
Didn't the city of Myrtle Beach do something similar to this?
It seems like
Back
I read
in
that they did, or they tried to.
2010.
Yeah.
And I think they went through and forced the vape shops and other businesses
Certain areas.
into certain area, and they ended them being able to operate in their current locations by not issuing their business license.
Yes, I think they do like a sunset clause,
Mhm.
and that is an option as well. Yeah. But you can see here, this is just between Wright Boulevard and 501 to the strip center across from Walmart, and there's several. There's 4 in one strip center off Rivertown Boulevard. Some of these aren't there anymore, and that's why I put red X's. Obviously, they're going away. But today, another one could locate there.
So if we were to remove them, are all of these in HC zoning? Did you- Okay.
Yeah.
And all of 501 is basically HC, right? So we would essentially, well, yeah. It's like, I'm just curious kind of what a map of, like, so if we remove that as an allowed use in HC or make it conditional, like what areas of the city are we then kind of encouraging these businesses to go?
Right, so they would be limited to the industrial districts, and there really isn't a lot of areas. So Commerce Plaza, the Atlantic Center, those are your industrial parks that are in the city. There are some parcels along 378 that are industrial, where you see a lot of trade shop uses go. So that would be an option as well. Some of them do have frontage on 378 that they could locate in, but it would just remove the ability from highway commercial or any district that technically right now a financial institution is permitted. We would separate the use and call it an alternative financial institution or something similar, and then not permit the use in this district. And there are other options. That's why I wanted to bring it before you instead of just bringing an amendment that does one thing, and kind of let you know of other options that there are that other places have done, like instituting separation requirements from other similar establishments, and that is an option as well. But we had a rezoning request earlier this year for a property on 701 North, and it was already zoned highway commercial, and they wanted to rezone to a district that would allow multifamily. And that triggered council to bring up to staff the concerns with having highway commercial so close to an existing established neighborhood, and wanted us to look at options on possibly limiting some uses, or if not, you know, withdrawing that use from the district on implementing additional conditions, like gas stations, for example. Again, Horry County makes you go to the Board of Zoning Appeals if you wanna serve alcohol. Whether you're an Applebee's or you're a bar, if you're gonna serve alcohol for on-premise consumption, you have to request a special exception from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'm not saying that that is as far as we would wanna go, but, there is that option as well for certain uses.
I personally, just my first reaction to it, I really like the idea of making it a conditional use in HC and having those distance requirements, like from a church or a school or another business, because I think if you give that distance requirement, like those 4 that are right next to each other, that would never happen. Just because I know so much of our city is HC, like in the main corridor areas, like I don't wanna limit someone's business, but I definitely see the need for not being overrun in those types of businesses.
With
That's
the
just
pay-
my first.
Yeah, now let me ask you this, with the payday loan, are you also looking at title loans, things
Yeah.
like that, is gonna be encompassed in that as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And again, that's not just for those types, it's also for your vape or your smoke shops. You know, there was a time where we got requests to do them everywhere, even downtown, and technically I don't know that there's anything that would actually prohibit them from doing it downtown. The only thing our use table addresses, is tobacco shops. So because tobacco shops are allowed in highway commercial, you can't really, these are along the same line, but you do have the ability to separate the use by defining it differently as well.
The special exception route, does that go with the owner? It doesn't go with the land, does it?
No, it does run with the land. Variances run with the land. A special exception, I'm trying to remember from my county days, it seems like whenever somebody wanted to do something, even if it was the same thing, they had to come back and ask for it again. So you might be right on the special exception. It would run actually with the business
That would make more sense.
and not the land.
And that would be a pretty good, my initial reaction, similar to Jessica's, is conditional, and I think the special exception, getting that in place might be a good thing too, so there's scrutiny and it relates to the particular owners. 'Cause a condition might run with the land. That was why I asked the question. I was concerned that if it was.
Well, variances definitely do,
So-
and if that's the route that, planning commission would prefer, we can look into that and make sure, and then next month bring those, you know, what that could look like. But I do know that the county, specifically if you were a restaurant or bar, you had to go back if you were a new restaurant or bar, because there could be a difference between an Applebee's and, you know, the whole issue with there started with biker bars in their residential neighborhood in Little River, and they wanted to, there's a big difference between a biker bar and an Applebee's, so the conditions might look different based on what it is. So it seems like if every new owner had to go back for that.
I can support the conditional.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me as well.
And it gives
So-
an opportunity for a public hearing too, so if you do a special exception and the property is posted, you know, surrounding property owners, you know, they're aware of the potential for that use to come in, and they can offer input as well.
So would they run separate, like, so the tobacco and vape would be separate of the, like, title loan? Or are we putting them together, like, no title, like, if you have a title loan, you can't have a vape next to it? Or is it
No,
gonna be separate?
these are just separate,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Is there a conversation about creating a district where these businesses would be welcome?
No, not creating a new zoning
I
district,
mean, or an area like, some sort of park like Atlantic Center that would be more proximal to this side of the,
yeah, that was one of the things that staff was looking at, was to only allow them in industrial districts, so they would have to locate in places like at the Atlantic Center or Commerce Plaza.
I'd be interested in seeing a map, just to help, I'm visual.
Sure.
So like where those areas are
Right.
too, just out of curiosity.
Sure.
Cause the other thing, I wouldn't wanna have, 50 vape and title owned
All in-
shops like
all
in
in one
one, cause
spot.
then you're ruining that, not ruining, I'm sorry.
Uh,
You're,
Is this the same thing that we've,
In
that,
you're
that area.
infiltrating,
I
impacting
didn't,
the
I didn't see
kids.
tattoo
Sorry.
shops on the list, is this the same conversation?
Well, tattoo shops are already limited to the industrial
HI?
districts.
Yeah.
And they actually have to be so many feet from another tattoo parlor, and they also have to be so many feet from a residential district or use, churches, daycare, public facilities, things like that. And the same thing with adult entertainment. They have, there's probably literally nowhere in the city you could actually do an adult entertainment establishment, but you have to have certain zoned areas that would potentially allow it.
Doesn't like a liquor sales store have to be so many feet away from like a church and stuff too?
That's a
So-
state,
That's
that's
a
a
state
state
thing,
law,
okay.
yeah. So the Department of Revenue, I think that they would have control over that. They have to post the property and things like that, and have to be so many feet from public daycares and public
Mhm.
schools, yeah.
And just on the clarity, once all of this is done, or if it's done, this would be for new applicants and not, existing?
Correct, unless there is, interest in, having a sunset clause that would basically, what Myrtle Beach did, say that you have this amount of time and your business license will not be renewed. We don't have anything like that now, but that's something that we could look at. And that is the thing, anywhere that's been a vape store or a cash advance or payday loan place, if somebody, that one closed today and the same type of business wanted to open tomorrow, even with the ordinance in place, we have, our non-conforming uses and structures ordinance that says that 180 days. So if 180 days does not go by, another like business could locate in that same location.
So if we did the conditional though, we couldn't kind of do the sunset clause also then, right? Because then how would you, once my business license is up, if there's one next to me, then I can't go back there automatically.
Yeah,
So
I don't,
It would have to be kind of one or the,
yeah, I think that what you'd have to do is you'd have to look at your non-conforming ordinance, which is Article 12 of the UDO, and put something in there so that it affected all uses that were considered conditional and not targeting one specific type of use. So I would look into putting that in Article 12 and just adding a condition in there for that if that's the way Planning Commission wanted to go.
would that affect some of the houses that we've annexed though, if we do that?
You mean, if it's zoned appropriately, no.
Didn't we-
Essentially, what
did-
we're doing is just messing with the
Yeah.
HC use table, right?
Yeah,
And so
Yeah.
we're not messing with anything else
Well,
other
that's
than just
correct.
that.
Well, I was talking to Article 12 or, anyways, I'm getting in the
I
weeds.
see what you're saying, that
But
you're saying if it was that,
if we address something that had all the conditional uses and some of the houses that we've annexed that are like legal non-conforming or something like that. Anyways, I'm getting in the weeds, but.
yeah, there's a uses section and a structures section, so we could separate that out, for sure. I'll bring back some options next month. This is really just, homework. I wanted y'all to take it home and look at it, and then, next month when we come back, if you have more questions or, wanna see something else, that's why I didn't really wanna rush into it, because I knew that this was, there was gonna be a lot to it, but they are considered, LULUs is what they're called, locally unwanted land uses. So this is one of several, types of uses. This and cash advance payday loan placements are considered locally unwanted land uses, but you're right, you do have to allow them somewhere.
Alright, any more thoughts? Anything you guys would like to see staff bring next month with regards to this? Anything specifically?
Can we find that sunset law from Myrtle, just for an example?
Sure, absolutely.
I think, isn't there a lawsuit in Myrtle Beach regarding something with the sunset clause and the, I think there's you're probably more familiar than I am, but I think it's one of the Lulu sort of businesses that is
Are
being
you
moved.
talking about with the
I think it's,
structures that they started tearing down?
I think it has to do with change of zoning or like a district use for, I think it's an adult entertainment place, and I know
Oh,
there's,
are you
like,
talking about
convers-
Seaboard Street maybe?
I think, I don't, I just
Yeah.
read recently I don't know.
He's like a
But we don't
Justin
wanna get
Bieber.
into a legal.
And I'll definitely look into that. Yeah, I'll look into that for sure.
And I
I'll
guess
make
it's-
sure.
I guess the troubling part, the only thing that I'm trying to get ahead over is like, I don't think the planning commission wants to be in a place of being a moral judge to what a good business is and what bad business is. Like, I don't think that's our job,
Sure.
And I don't wanna be in a moral compassing of that. I feel like that's somebody else's job, so when it comes to saying what's appropriate for highway commercial, what's appropriate for highway industrial or heavy industrial, light industrial, those are easier calls to make when we have good grid, I don't wanna be involved in a moral judgment on what is beneficial to a community, because I don't know every community member, I don't know every business owner, but I know that these businesses, some of them are profitable and necessary for different groups of people. And I don't wanna be the person who sits in judgment on whether this is a beneficial company or a business. It might be unsightly and we can do something about that, or, but I think it's really weedy when we start making moral judgments, or could get.
I think maybe my comment to that would be, I don't disagree with that, but I think that in terms of the role and responsibility, we're also trying to reduce externalities that are flowing to other people because of that presence. So we need to have a framework that not only provides an opportunity for those businesses in appropriate locations, but also protects surrounding property owners, and so it's a balancing act.
100%. I think coming up with a plan for these businesses to have a place that they're just not like, oh, well, you can't do any of this stuff. And,
Yeah.
Well, from my standpoint, the sunset clause issue for these businesses in terms of renewing their business licenses, that kind of encroaches on what you were talking about. I mean, it's us as the planning commission deciding that, we really don't want your kind here. Just, and from my standpoint, I think we can control future development, but I would be opposed to the sunset clause portion of it, so.
just putting it out there.
Yeah, and just remember, the Supreme Court, the village of Ambler versus the city of, or town of Euclid gave municipalities or local governments the right to use police power for zoning, and, stating that cities and towns do have the right to control their growth, to control the way that their town looks by implementing certain standards, including zoning and what businesses they want and where, for the purposes of protecting the community. So from that standpoint, that's why there are certain uses, not just these. I'm not targeting just these. That's why tattoo parlors or body piercing establishments or adult entertainment establishments all have to be located in certain areas to reduce the negative secondary effects that could be caused by that use. So I do completely understand what you're saying.
Alright. Clear as mud for next month.
I'll bring back a map of, the city showing the industrial areas, information about the sunset clause, if it's been used everywhere, and then a couple of options of ordinances on what it could look like, should this move forward, just for discussion.
Okay. Alrighty, moving on to the second one.
So a couple of months ago, staff was approached about the possibility of using a vacant space on Laurel Street, which is privately owned, as a type of outdoor event space. And what makes this different from a special event, which is temporary in nature, is the property owner would like to construct a permanent pergola or decorative entrance and possibly have a stage for live music and tables and chairs with 2 food trucks set up on site. And it could be that the site would be used primarily for one specific business, or it may be that the space would be available for events. The issue for this property is that it isn't tied to a brick and mortar establishment, and there may be building code issues such as the requirement for an on-site restroom for patrons to utilize. So most cities and towns simply refer to this type of use as a special event, or in some cases, a food truck corral or garden. The county has something called the Rural Tourism Permit, which is for agricultural properties that want to have event facilities, farms that are open to the public, and things of that nature. Those types of permits are not permitted outright. They have to receive a special exception through the county's Board of Zoning Appeals. We've already gone through what the special exception is, but a public hearing would be required. The BZA could impose conditions on the use, and other uses also require a special exception in several other municipalities in South Carolina, although of course we don't have that process as of now. Staff is looking at writing an ordinance for the special exception process for certain types of uses. This could be one of those situations where we have to do that here because our ordinance doesn't address temporary outdoor uses. There's a conceptual on the tractor shed property downtown, but what we're looking at is to establish what districts this would be permitted in, what all would be allowed, and if this would be another use that we would want to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception process. Due to the nature, it would have live music, food trucks, tables, chairs, it's outdoors, so you have the noise component. But we just wanted to bring that before you and let you know that staff is working on something for this specific type of use because it's not addressed in our ordinance.
So the idea there would be that every time there was an event there, you'd have to pull a permit? Or is it you would have a special exception to be open?
You would go through a special exception process.
One time?
One time,
And then you'd have conditions set in that process you'd have to operate?
yes.
Man, it's a really neat concept, but it doesn't take long to think of a lot of problems.
Right. Which is probably why we don't have anything like it in our ordinance right now, but we have gotten an increased interest from people to do something like this.
And there are two great locations to do these. I mean, as far as Conway, I imagine, I don't know how the business owners feel on the other side of that shed, but I imagine the ice cream shop would love a food business across the street from them and then come over for dessert or whatever. But, the empty lot that's in the city, I don't know how you'd mitigate you'd probably wanna, it doesn't take long to get into issues, does it? We've got exhaust, you've got in a corral, what are we doing with the?
Substantially increased foot traffic,
Right.
there's noise.
Restrooms, but I think it's a great problem, or a great challenge to think about. So this property is privately held?
Yeah. And the owners are trying to figure out what to do with it. They thought about just having like a food truck corral. We don't really want to pigeonhole it into just one type of thing, but they could have food trucks. But again, they also wanted to possibly build a stage. And I believe their intent would be to build like a wall at the front, that would kind of separate it off, and it would be closed except for certain times. That would probably be a little bit harder to do at the other location, but they are looking at a way to close it off so it's not open just for anybody, anytime.
I actually really love the idea, and I wish Conway had more outdoor areas like this. And I know that this is happening everywhere, so I think there's lots of good examples for some ordinance language, or, there's a way to figure it out, I feel like.
Greenville.
There's a few places in Greenville that are doing very similar things. I would, if you have the free time, look in their ordinances.
And there's no driveway in there for food
Yes, I
trucks.
have gotten some ordinances and gotten some ideas. It's just trying to figure out what to call it that fits Conway is the challenge right now.
And I think there's a difference too between, if you were wanting to have like a food truck corral place versus just, hey, come hang out and here's live music kind of place. Like when you have the food trucks and you said they want to fence it off and then using this specific location, you do a fence across the front, well, that's cool, but how do you get your trucks in and out, and how does
Right.
the traffic, the vehicular traffic work with the pedestrians, and, you know,
Yes, that is a challenge
adult
at this
beverages, and how do we
time.
control? So, but how does the city do, like the events, like the Halloween event? I know there's the public restrooms in the town green. And so when food trucks come for that and everything, that's just a special event permit?
Yeah, a special events operated, it's different. So while these food trucks are not permanent in nature and they could be different food trucks, just the facility itself, you know, you got someone who's renting an event facility, they're charging money, they'd have to have a business license. So with that comes the requirements for where the business is actually taking place. So at that location, there's certain requirements that have to be met. Not necessarily for the food trucks themselves, just for the fact that that is actually a business location. There is, I believe the same owners might own that adjacent building, where the bathroom, there's public restrooms inside there. Yeah, so they were trying to figure out a way of maybe doing, a door or something on one side there that would lead to the bathrooms. But that is the challenge, is how do they not meet the building code requirements or the building code standards for a business? And I think this one would be easier to meet than maybe the other location at the tractor shed. I think that would be more of a challenge, than this location would be. But the city, you know, we offer those facilities for patrons that are just downtown. It's not owned by the business owner. And for a special event, you have the ability to bring in temporary restroom facilities because it's just a temporary event that doesn't last but so many days.
And I guess my thoughts are, like, a special event, imagine that going on all the time. Like, what are the
Right.
things that you would need to have that permanently installed? Like, if they need to, and, you know, I'm sure you could make a beautiful architectural restrooms in this space that's somehow integrated with the stage or something like that. And then, you know, the pergola idea or whatever. I mean, my mind's just kind of going crazy on both sites. I think actually could be really cool. And I'm trying to think of an example, like, so it's not a building, but like, how do you permit a park? You know, like, how do you, so it's kind of similar in that, but it's different uses. Anyways, I really like the idea. I really like want Conway to pursue
There are a lot of
this
spots
and
that we
have
can use it.
this.
I think
Yeah.
just to help kind of envision a little bit, it may help, like Jessica was saying, the restrooms inside of the Blackwater Market. If you're familiar with the Blackwater Market, if they were to put, let's say, a cased opening or an opening with a door kind of similar to the Blackwater Market entrance beside River City Cafe, that would almost be kind of where they're going to put it, would be either directly across from or directly diagonal from what are already public restrooms. They are outside of existing businesses within the Blackwater Market. So you wouldn't necessarily have to leave here, go through the Blackwater Market, then go into the haberdashery or one of the consulting offices to then access a bathroom. So like you guys were saying, this one may be a little bit easier to achieve. I just wanted to be able to kind of paint that picture so it was easier for you guys to understand this particular site as far as the bathrooms, because that is a big question for all of these locations.
So those bathrooms are always accessible, like 24/7 kind of thing, or?
I
Just for
know
the businesses inside them.
it's public. I know as long as the doors to the Blackwater Market are open, you can walk through the Blackwater Market and use those restrooms. You don't necessarily have to purchase anything from any of the businesses that are tucked in that area. River City Cafe also uses those bathrooms. And I'm not sure if they have hours on when they lock
That's
the
what I was
Blackwater
getting at,
Market.
yeah.
But like Jessica was saying, the owners that own the Blackwater Market also own this property. So they would most certainly more than likely work within their own compounds already. But that doesn't answer our tractor shed dilemma.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I think that'd be the tractor shed's challenge, to try to make it more like this and all the stuff that you, because like restroom facility, that's like kind of like top of the list. And that seems like a very doable solution without a whole lot of effort. The other one's probably gonna take some effort. But there's probably a litany of things that I haven't even thought about that needs to be on the list, and it seems like you could hurdle or cross the hurdles easier at that location than the other, but the list will be
For
the
sure.
same if you do it through special exception, and if, kind of really the same thing, as long as the special exception is tied to that particular owner, and not the land, and you've got all these conditions, you could probably, I'd
And
be
it-
surprised
yeah.
you couldn't find something that was workable.
Is that
And the
same?
ordinance doesn't have to be catered to a specific location. It would be, like Mr. Sly said, it would be up to the property owner who wanted to do it to meet the standards that planning commission and city council wanted to adopt. That would be their burden. The thought is to just have the use as an availability to people who could meet those, conditions that, were adopted.
And just a little food for thought as well, anything of this nature, let's say we iron everything out, get our ordinance in place, anything within the downtown area would also have to go through CAB. So that helps on some side of those. There'll be questions that you guys may not think of that they'll be asking.
So, the trestle, I guess, they have those chairs out permanently, right? Tables and chairs? Is that because they're tied to a physical building? How does that work?
I believe that the alley, I think that was closed. I think they were given permission to close that alley, to put them out there. Tables and chairs don't necessarily need CAB review, so everything that they've done out there, just the tables and chairs themselves, were permitted because the alley was closed.
Didn't that happen during COVID?
That was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that, but I'm just saying, like, how did, is there any kind of language that was used to let that happen that could maybe kind of help some of this
For
stuff?
sure, yeah, for sure. That was, but that was done, I'm pretty sure that required
Yeah.
council's permission to do that, yeah.
And because what they have done beside the trestle is technically considered temporary, all of it could be removed in the event of hurricanes, high winds, whatever be the case.
That sort of thing is done all over the country, it's
Yeah.
just
Right.
al fresco dining, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, but, yeah.
It's all-
Yeah, but you're right, the fact that there's a restaurant right there, that use, this would be different. There's no immediate use right there. It's not like an accessory to an existing principal use, like the
Right.
trestle and Norman Alley.
Right. Okay. Well, I love the idea, so figure it out. No, I'm kidding. In your free time.
We will definitely bring back options.
What free time you can't find?
Whoever owns, I don't know who owns it now, the tractor shed, is it the same as any of the rest of that property there?
I'm not sure. I know that those buildings are semi-connected, but I'm not sure who owns that. Do you know?
I'm pretty sure Sean
Yeah, I
Sean
thought it all
owns
been
all of it.
consolidated.
Oh,
Okay.
they bought it.
Yeah.
I know he owns Shanti's and 104 and Laurel, and I'm
Okay.
almost positive he also owns this. I do think that's a little more recent than some of the other ones,
Okay.
but yeah.
So, if that would make it a lot
Yeah.
easier
True.
Yeah.
to.
I do think one of the challenges that goes through my brain, just to throw this out there too, is like on the other example, if you had a neighbor and you were like, hey, I wanna have residences upstairs or something, and here you've just permitted this music venue, or the music's gonna bounce off all the walls. So I think there are challenges to it that really need to be thought through in that way as well. I mean, you are outside, if you're encouraging music,
I
but
think
anyways.
hours of operation would definitely
Really,
be
yeah,
very
like
important.
music decibel, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Measuring decibels. I don't know if we can do that quite, but yeah, I think noise would definitely be a large concern.
The Board
Like,
of
if they're
Zoning
putting
Appeals for the
stages out.
county does.
But overall, I love the idea, and it's almost like Stella's too, right? Don't they have a lot of outside stuff too?
Mhm.
I mean, I just love that atmosphere in Conway, such like a downtown pedestrian. And I think
Yeah.
it'd be great to have
Getting
more
people out on the
opportunities.
streets.
Yeah,
But I'm also more comfortable with like a singular business owner operating that property as opposed to like special events, and Lord knows who's
yeah.
got it rented, and, the accountability there makes me kinda nervous. If it's people that are operating it day in and day out, then that's,
And I think that definitely, I apologize if I misinformed, but yeah, these would be a property owner. This would be a business owner. They would be in control of what happens
right, but
on that
there's a
property.
distinction between a business owner that's leasing it out and y'all go have a ball,
Gotcha, yes.
as opposed to they're there, they're actually running the whole operation,
Right.
And accountable.
right?
Almost
Cool.
reminds me of the back deck of the House of Blues, kinda set it up
Yeah.
like that or something.
We'll bring back some examples, from other places next month.
Cool. Excited. Alrighty, moving on to board input. Anybody got anything good? Nothing?
I have a
I think we
question.
should recognize,
The swampy area there before you're going on the Riverwalk by Kingston Point. Do you know what I'm talking about, where the boat was? They cleaned all that out. I just wondered what, what are they gonna do there? Hopefully nothing.
Is that the same place they're planning the ferry?
The city-owned property, and I know, every couple years, we do have a, SAC permit to do some debris or
Dredging.
things like that, clean out the wetlands kind of thing, cause believe it or not, if you don't keep them clean to a certain extent, they can't do their actual job. So, I do know at one point in time that was all we were doing with, but it is city-owned property. And I do know we have cleaned it in the past, and I would assume that's kind of what's going along those lines. But I'm not 100% sure of if there's future or anything.
Well, I just was hoping that wasn't, because
Yeah.
it's pretty low land.
it's low
Oh, if you're
land.
talking about it
We
over
just
something
need
being
another
built.
place for water to go.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be anything like that. No, if it's city-owned, no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do any building on it.
I actually think it's privately owned, part of it, but, I've seen that hole. I'd be surprised if they do. That's that.
Alright, any staff input?
Next month, we will, have, 3 new employees, and 2 of them will, actually be assisting staff with the comprehensive plan. Very young, fresh out of college, so I'll be bringing them to the next meeting, for y'all to meet them. We're super excited to
That's
have them.
awesome.
Yes,
We
Yeah.
look forward to
You
it.
guys-
Train 'em up.
Yeah.
yeah,
Welcome to
Y'all,
the city.
Y'all be
Good for
on,
the city.
y'all be on your toes with questions.
very young, very young.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, trial by fire. I love it. Awesome. Alright, well, upcoming meetings, so we'll see you guys on December 11th at 5:30. And when's the tree lighting?
The first Thursday,
The first Thursday?
which is the
Okay.
4th.
The 4th, okay. Alright, anybody got anything else?
Yes.
Alright, well, I'll make,
I think I missed the part where I should have asked you, but the property out at Singleton Ridge that's being rezoned into the city, if I understood right, if you change ownership or renter or whatever, and water is cut off, if you come back to get water back onto that property, it has to go into the city, if it's in the county, it has to go into the city in order to get water.
so I think staff can answer that question, and I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, and then I think Ms. Huck's right here, she can answer that question for you.
Okay.
Okay, alright, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.